Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. Grab a coffee or a cold one, settle in, and let's talk about something close to my heart, sailing solo. Now, I know sailing alone isn't for everyone. It's not always easy, and it's definitely not always comfortable. But for those of us who've chosen this path, or maybe stumbled into it, it can be one of the most rewarding ways to live. I've spent a good chunk of my life bobbing around on this big blue planet with no one else on board but me. And while there are days I'd kill for a good conversation or a helping hand, I wouldn't trade the solo sailing life for anything. There's something raw, real, and downright magical about being out there with just the wind, the waves, and your own thoughts. So today, I want to share the 5 big reasons why I think sailing solo is totally worth it. These aren't theories or romantic daydreams. These are hard-earned truths from thousands of miles at sea alone. Let's dive in. One of the best parts about sailing solo is the pure, unfiltered freedom. When it's just you and your boat, every choice is yours. You're not waiting on anyone's opinion, not balancing different plans, just following the wind and your gut. If I see a quiet bay on the chart and decide I want to spend a few nights there, I do it. No negotiations, no compromises, just go. I remember once being anchored near a tiny Greek island. I'd planned to stay for one night, maybe 2, but the place had this calm energy that I just couldn't shake. The sunsets were unreal, and the little taverna on shore served fresh fish like nowhere else. So I stayed. Ended up there for over a week. That kind of freedom is a rare thing in life, and it's one of the reasons I love sailing alone. It's not just about staying longer or leaving early. It's the deeper freedom of steering your life exactly how you want. Every destination, every anchorage, every course correction. It all comes down to you. And yeah, that means you carry the responsibility too, but that's part of what makes it feel so rewarding. When you're not trying to coordinate with anyone else, your days open up in a different way. You can move slow, follow the weather, chase sunsets, or just drop the hook in a spot that looks peaceful and stay a while. You can be silent all day, sing your lungs out, or spend the whole afternoon reading in the cockpit. You don't have to explain your choices to anyone. There's also a freedom in discovering places off the beaten path. Without a crew to entertain or marina needs to meet, you can anchor in wild, beautiful places that feel like they were made just for you. You're not following a guidebook, you're writing your own. Sure, it's more work, you're the skipper, the cook, the deckhand, but in return, you get to live life completely on your own terms. And for me, that trade-off has been more than worth it. Sailing solo isn't just a physical journey, it's an emotional and mental one too. You find out who you are out there, especially when things go sideways. No one else is coming to fix it. It's you, your boat, and the sea. And that kind of challenge? It shapes you. I wasn't always this confident. I used to second-guess every decision. Should I reef now? Is this anchorage really safe? But when you're solo, you learn to trust yourself because you have to. And every time you make the right call, every time you handle something tough on your own, your confidence builds. There was a night off the coast of Portugal when a sudden squall blew through. It came out of nowhere. I had just dozed off when the wind slammed into the sails. I jumped up, reefed down in the dark, soaked and shaking. It wasn't pretty, but I got through it. And afterward, sitting in the cockpit with the storm behind me, I felt something click inside. I knew I could handle things. That feeling is priceless. Solo sailing also teaches patience and resilience. Things break, plans fall apart, weather turns. You learn to roll with it, to adapt. You stop seeing problems as disasters and start treating them like puzzles. That shift in mindset spreads into every part of your life. You get calmer, wiser, a little tougher, and let's not forget the emotional side. You spend a lot of time with your thoughts out there. It can be uncomfortable at first, but eventually you make peace with yourself. You let go of the noise and expectations from the world ashore. You grow into the kind of person who doesn't need constant validation or company to feel fulfilled. So yeah, solo sailing can be hard, but it's also one of the most powerful paths to personal growth I've ever known. You walk away from every trip a little more sure of who you are. When you're sailing solo, the connection you build with the sea becomes something almost spiritual. There's nothing between you and the world around you. No distractions, no chatter, no one else's agenda. Just you, the wind, the water, and the sky. There's this moment that happens sometimes, usually just before sunset, when the light gets golden and the sea goes still. Maybe you're under sail, maybe you're anchored somewhere remote, and it hits you. You're part of it all. You're not just looking at nature, you're living inside it, breathing with it, moving with it. You notice things most people miss. The subtle change in the wind that tells you it's about to shift. The way a pod of dolphins moves like they're dancing. The rhythm of waves against the hull, like a lullaby. These moments aren't rare when you're out there alone. They're constant, if you're paying attention. And because there's no one else around, your senses become sharper. You start to feel the weather before it arrives. You learn to read the sky like a map. You spot birds, clouds, and currents like clues in a story that's unfolding around you. It's not always peaceful, though. Sometimes nature reminds you who's boss. I've been out in gales that had me gripping the tiller with white knuckles, praying for dawn. But even in those moments, especially in those moments, you feel alive in a way that's hard to explain. The sea doesn't care about your plans, your worries, or your ego. It just is, and being out there solo forces you to meet it on its terms. That connection changes you. You start to value quiet over noise, wind over Wi-Fi, stars over streetlights. You become more tuned in, more respectful, more grateful. Nature isn't just a backdrop. It becomes your companion, your teacher, your challenge, and your comfort. Out there, under the open sky with no one else around, you stop feeling like a visitor. You start feeling like you belong. There's something incredibly calming about stripping life down to the basics. When you're sailing solo, you quickly realize how little you actually need to feel content. A good anchorage, a hot cup of coffee, a working autopilot, that's the dream right there. Life on land is loud. There's always something buzzing, ringing, or demanding your attention. But on the boat, especially alone, the pace slows to something much more natural. You wake with the sun, sleep when you're tired, and spend your days doing things that actually matter. Navigating, cooking, fixing gear, and just soaking in the view. It's not glamorous, but it's real. And in that simplicity, there's a deep kind of peace. I remember a week I spent drifting through the Exumas. No internet, no phone calls, just white sand, turquoise water, and the sound of the breeze in the rigging. I read old paperbacks, snorkeled with rays, and spent entire afternoons watching the light play on the waves. I didn't miss anything. If anything, I felt like I was finally seeing clearly. There's also less mental clutter. When you're solo, there's no drama, no small talk, no pressure to be on. You don't have to keep up with the world's pace. You get to set your own. And you start to notice how good it feels to let go of all the extra stuff. Fancy gear, fast schedules, packed calendars. Turns out, none of that really makes you happy. It's not perfect. There are lonely days, and there's always something that needs fixing. But that slower, simpler rhythm gives you room to breathe. And in that space, you find peace. Not the kind you chase, but the kind that quietly settles in when you finally stop chasing. In the end, the biggest reason sailing solo is worth it might just be this: it's your life, built entirely on your terms. Out there, every decision, from where you sail to how you live, is yours. No one's steering your ship, literally or figuratively. That kind of autonomy is rare. Most people spend their lives negotiating choices with others. But when you're solo on a boat, you get to shape your days, your routines, your priorities. You decide what matters. And the life you build, it's not handed to you by society. It's not based on someone else's idea of success. It's something you've crafted, day by day, wave by wave. It's filled with stories you earned, challenges you overcame, and joys you discovered on your own. There's pride in that, quiet, steady pride. It's also a life that reflects who you truly are. If you want to anchor off a deserted island for a week and paint watercolors, do it. If you want to spend every morning spearfishing and every afternoon journaling, that's your call. There's no script, no template, just the wide open sea and your own instincts to guide you. And maybe that's the most beautiful part. When you live this way, you stop pretending. You stop performing. You just become more you. And that authenticity, living a life that feels honest and right, is something most people spend their whole lives searching for. Solo sailing isn't for everyone, but for those of us who felt that wind in our hair, who've watched the stars from a quiet anchorage and steered through storms with nothing but grit and gut, it's more than a lifestyle. It's a way of becoming exactly who you were meant to be. In the end, the biggest reason sailing solo is worth it might just be this: it's your life, built entirely on your terms. Out there, every decision, from where you sail to how you live, is yours. No one's steering your ship, literally or figuratively. That kind of autonomy is rare. Most people spend their lives negotiating choices with others. But when you're solo on a boat, you get to shape your days, your routines, your priorities. You decide what matters. And the life you build, it's not handed to you by society. It's not based on someone else's idea of success. It's something you've crafted, day by day, wave by wave. It's filled with stories you earned, challenges you overcame, and joys you discovered on your own. There's pride in that. Quiet, steady pride. It's also a life that reflects who you truly are. If you want to anchor off a deserted island for a week and paint watercolors, do it. If you want to spend every morning spearfishing and every afternoon journaling, that's your call. There's no script, no template, just the wide open sea and your own instincts to guide you. And maybe that's the most beautiful part. When you live this way, you stop pretending. You stop performing. You just become more you. And that authenticity, living a life that feels honest and right, is something most people spend their whole lives searching for. Solo sailing isn't for everyone, but for those of us who felt that wind in our hair, who've watched the stars from a quiet anchorage and steered through storms with nothing but grit and gut, it's more than a lifestyle. It's a way of becoming exactly who you were meant to be.